So what's the difference between Italian and French macarons? Well, it's really about how you're making the meringue. It's the same cookie, just different methods. So with the French, we're going to start with our egg whites, put them in the bowl of our stand mixer with the whisk attachment, and sprinkle in the sugar while we're whipping to create this very dense, firm peak meringue that sticks straight up like this. It will gather in the center of the whisk when it's ready. And then you're going to take all that meringue and fold it into your almond flour and powdered sugar mixture. And this takes a lot of folding. This is called macaronage. You can add food coloring, and you're folding and folding and folding until you get to this figure 8 consistency. And it's very easy to overfold this batter. It tends to spread out a little bit more. The surface of the cookies tend to be a little bit rougher, and I feel that they have like a lot of bubbles, but that could just be my technique of mixing. I'm definitely not a pro. I'm still learning. I'm just telling you guys what I have learned. So when you bake these, you have to let them dry for at least 30 minutes, sometimes over an hour, depending on how humid it is outside. And if you don't do this, they won't rise properly. You can see when they bake, they tend to be a little bit rougher on top, and sometimes they just completely fail, like these ones did. It was just a little bit too humid outside, so the shells are very thin, the bottoms did not rise properly, and they just, didn't work out. And, sometimes they just don't. But the middles are pretty full, so that's a bonus to the French method. For the Italian, we're going to start with some hot sugar that you cook to about 244 degrees Fahrenheit, and you slowly stream that into some whisking egg whites. This cooks the egg whites and makes them very stable. Some people find it a little tricky to pour, but it just takes a little practice and then you'll get it. And then you whisk this on a high, and it makes a very strong meringue that's super shiny, and you can see is a little bit different than the French meringue. This is a very stable meringue that makes it super easy to mix the batter. We're going to start by adding some other egg whites to our almond flour mixture. It doesn't start out dry, and you make this into a paste. And this is, one of the steps that I think really helps with making these macarons really stable. This is a method I learned at my class in Paris that I was talking about. And you can also add some food coloring at this stage, or you can add to your sugar. You add a third of the meringue to the paste, and then you just mix it up. You don't have to be careful. You're just kind of lightening that paste so it's not quite so dense and heavy. And then you add in the rest of your meringue. Gosh, I don't know why this clip is so long. Like, it's just going and going and going. Like, come on. Okay, we're mixing now. So you just mix that all up, and you can see that it's just making that paste a lot lighter and less dense. And then you add the rest of the meringue, and you keep mixing until you have the right consistency to make that figure 8, and it kind of like settles into itself. The great thing about the Italian method is that it's pretty much impossible to overmix. You can just keep mixing. It keeps that really nice consistency, and you don't have to worry about overmixing it. In fact, a couple of times I undermixed it because I was just so afraid of overmixing. I was afraid they weren't going to turn out. So you can see the batter is like settling into itself. I can now make a figure 8, so we're ready to go. This batch I was piping on a parchment paper, but most of the time I pipe onto silicone now. And you don't want to wait too long for the skins to form. I only wait maybe like 10 or 15 minutes until it just barely forms a skin. If you wait too long, this is what happens. You get explosions. So it's nice that you don't have to let them rest for very long. And then once you nail the timing, they come out every single time. Doesn't matter the humidity. They just beautiful time after time.